Hey everybody, Scott Brown here with day 5 of 90 of Darren LaCroix's 90-day Facebook Live Challenge. And I thought that today we'd start to get into a little bit of what it is that I love to do so much, about why I became a speaker, why I became a leader, and what I do to try to help leaders find their voice. And I think there's one thing, one foundational skill that Toastmasters taught me that's really the foundational skill for everything that leaders have to do. And that one thing has nothing seemingly to do with crafting a message or connecting with an audience or even leading others. But yet, when you really dig into it, it has everything to do with how to craft a message, how to connect with others, and how to lead people. That one thing is just to listen. Just listen. I think that's the greatest thing that Toastmasters taught me. It wasn't how to craft a speech, but Toastmasters taught me how to listen with intention, how to listen with the same passion that I wanted to get my message out there. Listen with that same passion that I use when I speak. But we don't always use that passion when we listen, do we? All too often, we listen only enough to buy the time until it's our turn to speak again. Because we have an agenda, we know where we're trying to go, and the other person talking is just taking away from our time to get our message out there. But what we should be doing isn't biding time. It should be listening with the hope of understanding. And not just listening to those words that are thrown out, but listening to what is not said as well. Listen to how things are said. Listen to the alignment between what is said and the message, between the body language, the vocabulary, the inflection, the pauses, the pace. How we listen is so critically important to understanding who someone is and where they're trying to go. So let me give you a great example from life of a time that I really needed someone to listen, and how I gave every hint in the world that it was time to listen, but how nobody really did. So I'm an only child and I'm an only grandchild, which means that when I was about 14 and my parents split up, I didn't have a huge network of family to help me get through this huge life-changing event. I had to deal with a lot of this stuff on my own because my parents were going through their own stuff. I mean, they're the ones that were getting divorced, and it was left up to me to try to figure out, how do I get through this? Well, I did what any great 14-year-old would do. I decided to create a fantasy world all for myself, not let anybody else in, but create this place where I could live, where I could escape, and I could try to pretend that what was happening around me wasn't really happening. And how did I do that? Well, I decided to convince myself that I was a professional surfer. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which was only about 3,000 miles from the nearest surfable beach. Not to mention the fact that I am scared to bejesus of sharks. Thank you for letting me watch Jaws when I was 10 years old. But I created this mystical world that I could escape that was as far away from reality as what I could possibly imagine. But why was it important for people to listen? Because obviously I'm not a surfer. I mean, girth-wise, there's no way I'm a surfer. I lived in Pittsburgh. There was no way I'm a surfer. So instead of listening and asking, dude, what are you doing? Why are you creating this mystical world of a fantasy you're trying to escape into? My friend's parents and my teachers and my relatives, all they wanted to do was try to figure out, how do we disprove what he's telling us? It was obvious that what I was telling wasn't the truth, but there was a reason why I was saying it. But how many times do we find ourselves in a situation where we're trying to disprove what somebody else is saying, where we're trying to prove our point to be right, when all we really should be doing is listening to hear and listening to understand, and then from that point, creating a message and a dialogue and a relationship to reach out and say, I hear what you're going through, how can I help? Great leaders aren't great leaders because they're in charge. Great leaders are great leaders because they look after those people who are in their charge. Great leaders are great leaders because they listen, because they have the empathy to walk beside people in their time of need, and they have the ability to listen to understand what those needs are. Leadership is not about a position or a title, it's about the actions we take. And perhaps no action is greater than the action and the skill to learn to listen. So the next time you're in a situation and you hear somebody saying something, you're like, I know that's not true. Listen. Listen to what they're really saying and then ask how you can help. When you hear somebody talking about something that you know they're struggling with, ask, how can you help? Listen first to understand. Listen first to understand before you ever try to be understood. Remember, we have one mouth and two ears. Let's start using them in proportion. What do you say? And the next time that you are around people that you're trying to influence, before you try to get them to go somewhere, listen to where they are, how they got there, and what they need. And you might just find that your plan is completely different from what you would have done if you would have just talked in the first place. So the next time you have the chance, everyone, please, just listen. See you tomorrow, where we start talking about alignment. Have a great weekend, everyone.